Good morning, children. In the present video, we will study about soil erosion and the need and various methods for conservation of soil. So, children, have you ever thought of what exactly happens when the wind blows hard or the water current is fast? You will notice that under such situations, quite often the top layer of the soil is blown away by wind or washed away by water. The process of removal of the top layer of the soil from a place due to wind or water is known as soil erosion. It can also be referred to as a naturally occurring process of degradation of soil, which usually results into displacement of the upper layer of soil. There are various causes or factors which are responsible for causing soil erosion. These include the wind, water, lack of vegetation, and human activities as well. Let us primarily focus upon wind as one of the agents of soil erosion. Children, the wind blows away from the places where there is no vegetation. Also, the roots of the plants have the capacity to hold the soil in place. So, the plants and crops help to maintain the structure of the soil, thereby reducing the chances of soil erosion. But whereby the areas or the regions have less naturally occurring flora or proper vegetation, it is basically a clear hint that there are chances of soil erosion to occur in such regions and areas. So long as the soil erosion by wind is concerned, it is most common in deserts and in bare lands. We all know that plants and trees are the primary reasons for strong binding of soil. But the deserts and bare lands lack in plantation to a larger extent. As a result of this, the soil in these regions becomes loose, and that makes the wind to carry the soil easily. Not only this, in the absence of vegetation, water also washes away the soil particles. Soil erosion by water is most common in hilly places where the rivers carry the topsoil down the slope. This soil is then deposited in the plains by the rivers. When the soil deposit increases, the river is forced to change its course. Apart from the natural phenomena like wind and water, soil erosion is also caused by human actions. One such action is cutting down of trees known as deforestation. We all know that roots of the plants have the capacity to hold the soil. So, the protection to the soil by the roots of the plants is removed in case of deforestation, and the soil gets easily eroded by wind or water. What do you think about animals? Children, allowing the cattle to overgraze often exposes the soil by removing the plant covering. This also leads to soil erosion. Apart from this, the use of unscientific methods of cultivation also contribute in this regard, whereby if the land is left uncultivated after cutting the crops, the soil gets eroded fast. Also, plowing the soil on the slope loses the soil and it gets carried away by wind or water. Not only this, the mining and construction work also lead to severe soil erosion. So, children, the problem of soil erosion often plagues our land because it results into the exposure or loss of topsoil, resulting into gradual exposure of the lower layer of the soil, which is hard and rocky in nature. This type of soil is less fertile as it contains less humus. That is why continued soil erosion will make the land barren and unfertile. We need fertile, healthy soil because it is essential for agriculture and food security. Sustainable intensification of agriculture is needed to improve yields and to allow us to produce more on less land. Nearly 1 in 5 people use the land to produce agriculture based food for the rest of the world. That is why it is necessary to ensure plant management of this resource through soil conservation, which is the protection of the soil cover from the menace of soil erosion. It can also be referred to as a combination of practices used to protect the soil from degradation. The first and foremost step in this regard is treating the soil as a living ecosystem. This means soil conservation aims at returning the organic matter to the soil on a continual basis. So, let us now discuss about all the various steps that can be taken to protect the soil from erosion. These include the adoption of various practices and special agricultural techniques by the farmers and the government as well. These include afforestation or planting of more trees. The second one is adoption of various agricultural techniques like terrace cultivation, contour plowing, strip cropping, planting shelter belts, crop rotation, mulching, creating counter barrier. The third one is prevention of overgrazing, and the fourth one is construction of dams. We will study about each one of these techniques one by one. The first method that can be adopted for soil conservation is afforestation or planting of more trees, which can help a lot in conserving the soil because the roots of the trees have the capacity to bind the soil and thereby prevent soil erosion. Also, planting trees in a row prevents washing away of soil by water. Let us now understand about the various agricultural techniques that are adopted for soil conservation. These include terrace cultivation, which is a method of growing crops on sides of hills or mountains by planting on graduated terraces built into slope. Steps are cut along the slope and their edges are bunded. Children, though labor intensive, the method has been employed effectively to maximize arable land area in variable terrains and to reduce soil erosion and water loss. It also helps in preventing the washing away of the soil nutrients along the slope. The next agricultural technique adopted for soil conservation is contour plowing, which is plowing of land along the contour lines. Children, a contour line is an imaginary horizontal line which connects all the points in a given area of land that have the same elevation. Contour plowing is plowing along such contour lines in a parallel way instead of up and down slopes. This is done to form natural barrier for water to flow down the slopes. It is basically a method which respects the natural shape or contour lines on a land area. It discourages swift water runoff, whereby the water doesn't erode the soil but rather soaks into it and can be used by the plants for growth. The third agricultural technique is strip cropping, in which strips of grasses are left to grow in between the crops in order to break up the force of the wind. Planting of trees in a row, known as shelter belts, helps to check the force of the wind and also prevents the spread of deserts and helps in disaster management in cyclone prone areas. Crop rotation, or the practice of planting different crops sequentially on the same plot or the same area of land, helps in improving the soil health, optimizing nutrients in the soil, and combating pest and weed pressure. It also helps in maintaining the soil fertility. Planting of leguminous crops for nitrogen fixation is common within the routine. The next method or agricultural technique which is adopted for soil conservation is mulching, which is a practice of covering bare garden soil with a porous material to improve the condition of the soil underneath. It is a procedure of covering the empty grounds between rows of plants with straw or other organic matter and can help to retain the soil moisture. The organic mulches include straw, compost, newspaper, sawdust, and other similar materials and methods. So, creating contour barriers, which are the obstructions made on the slopes with the help of stones, grass, trenches in soil, helps in collection of water and checks flow of water and reduces the chances of soil erosion. Apart from the agricultural techniques, other methods can also be adopted for soil conservation, which include prevention of overgrazing by animals. This is done to protect the plant cover and disallow the soil from being blown away. Also, construction of dams along the river side helps in holding the water back and releasing it in a controlled way. This in turn controls flooding and checks soil erosion. Children, along with all these methods which can be adopted or rather are adopted for soil conservation, the most important and effective method could be to make or create awareness amongst the masses about the necessity for soil conservation. This can be done by distributing bulletins and organizing farmer training programs and schemes. Thank you.